one of the things you've touched on is this idea of friendship, or within that. Could you talk about that, or maybe how evangelicals have lacked a theology of friendship, and kind of how that piece fits into what you're saying?
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the things that I've come to see as I've done more ministry in this area with people with same-sex attraction is a lot of us will stay single. You know, I think that in earlier sort of generations of the evangelical church, a lot of gay people talked about being ex-gay and getting married to a spouse of the opposite sex. And I certainly don't want to diminish those testimonies. I think those are there, and we need to celebrate those. But I do think a lot of us feel that that's not going to be our story. We're going to be single. And one of the real questions that single people face in the church is, how do we really belong in the church when it seems like so many of the evangelical churches are so oriented around married people with children? And I think single people can sometimes feel like they're a little bit on the edges of that.
So you're even saying this is I'm sorry to cut you off,
No.
You're saying this is even a bigger issue, though, this issue of singleness within the church, that we really haven't, as evangelicals, really thought through, had enough even ministry, theological reflection on, not simply for Christians who feel same-sex attraction, but as a bigger even issue.
That's right. Yeah, I think so. I think the issue of the place of single people in the church is obviously, it transcends sexual orientation. There are straight single people and gay single people who feel equally kind of marginalized. But I think for those of us who are gay, those of us who are same-sex attracted, it's a very live question for us, because I think we feel that a lot of our straight single friends are sort of still holding out hope for marriage. And a lot of us are saying, you know, maybe, but probably not. Probably we're going to be single for life. And so there may be a sense in which we feel it maybe especially acutely. I mean, not to minimize a straight person's difficulty with being single. I know a lot of straight friends who would love to be married and, you know, can't find the right partner. And But I think that's where, for me, this theology of friendship becomes so important, because I want to be able to say to single people, whether they're gay or straight, your marital status as a single person, as a celibate person, does not cut you off from meaningful community. It doesn't mean that you're doomed to loneliness. It doesn't mean that you're perpetually relegated to the margins of the church. You belong, and we want you to have meaningful connections with people. So I've really been on a sort of journey the past few years, reading a lot about the history of friendship in the church. And one of the things that has surprised me, wonderfully surprised me, is that Christians have had a habit over the centuries of viewing friendship as an extremely honorable form of love. It's not just a kind of, you know, we tend to talk about friendship in very casual terms. You know, I friended you on Facebook, or you know, he's my friend. I go to a restaurant with him once a month or something. But friendship in Christian history has been something very committed. It's been bound by promises. It's been publicly recognized, publicly honored, and I'm sort of on a quest to kind of revitalize some of that in today's church, specifically for gay people, you know, gay Christians who are single, who want to be celibate, who want to be committed to the church's traditional teaching on marriage and sexuality. I think those people need this theology of friendship. I need it. You know, we need to know that we belong in the church. And so, you know, I sort of love the idea that this strand of the New Testament about the church as family, and this teaching about friendship sort of blend. One of my heroes in this whole area is this Russian Orthodox genius named Pavel Florinsky. And he says, you know, at their peaks, at their highest moments, the two currents of friendship and brotherhood strive to merge. And I love that idea that you know, when I'm so committed to a friend, what's happening there is the friend is becoming a brother. Or when I have a brother in Christ, what's happening there is that person is becoming a friend. And there's that merging of the stream. So I find that, for me as a same-sex attracted person looking at a lifetime of singleness, I find that so encouraging to think I don't have to be alone. Marriage is not the only place to belong. If I remain unmarried, that doesn't mean I'm a second-class citizen in the church. You know, I belong.